Hello, everybody. I can see people starting to hop in here. Welcome, welcome. On this beautiful Monday, I hope everybody's week is getting off to a great start. As you're hopping in, maybe pop your name in the chat, let us know where you are. And I don't know, let us know how the weather is where you are today. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. Rachel is also in Canada, but I think a slightly less chilly part of Canada.
I'm in Colorado, actually.
Oh, you are?
I am. I used to live in Vancouver, but now I'm in Colorado. So
I
cold and clear. Cold and clear, but not as cold as Calgary.
Isn't there some kind of Arctic blast coming your way?
Yes.
I was reading about that today.
We're not going to think about it.
Yes, good. Yes. Happy Monday. So yeah, everybody, Massachusetts, you're waiting for the snowstorm too, Cindy. Yeah, this is what I was reading today. We're not too bad. We got a snowstorm last week here in Calgary, and I'm hoping that is it for now. So yeah, let us know, everybody, where you are. We've got a nice big group joining us today. I'm very excited to have Rachel Scott of Rachel Scott Yoga here. Rachel, I think I was telling you this, but I've shared your website quite a lot with people who are like exploring Offering Tree, because I love your on-demand library. It's so neat. So I'm really excited to have you here. Amelia's in Maryland and it's raining. Bridget, hi. Bridget's in Calgary too. Angelica's in Sweden. How cool. And
hi,
Quebec.
Angelica.
Hi, Michelle. This is awesome. Yeah. And Wendy's in Vancouver Island. So we do have somebody over there. That's cool. Okay, I'll just give everyone a minute or two. And then I'm going to hand over to Rachel. But before I do, when I do turn my camera off, I'll be hanging out here in the background. If anyone has any tech needs or if you need anything, just shoot me a message in the chat. But also we will be doing a replay of today's webinar. So if you do have to hop off early for any reason, or if you want to review it, it will be coming to your inbox later today. But before we get started... Hi, Katie. Oh, Edinburgh. Oh, cool. Hi. I'm from Manchester, so I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, so for anybody who is joining here who isn't familiar with the Offering Tree, I'll just give you that little bit of information. We are an all-in-one software platform. We were created by wellness providers, yoga teachers, mindfulness instructors, and software engineers to actually service that particular industry. So we're really working towards that wellnesspreneur industry, and it's an all-in-one software that has like your scheduling, your emails, your on-demand content, which is what we're going to talk about today. It's everything all in one place, one handy, easy to use place. So we try to take care of the tech so you can focus on growing your business and serving your clients. So today I will drop a link in the chat and it will go out with the replay for a discount to Offering Tree through Rachel today, where you'll get 50% off your first 3 months or 15% off an annual plan. And yeah, that's about it from me. So you can contact me in the chat if you need me, and I'll hop on at the end and I'll be here furiously taking notes because I really need to up my game on my online content too. So over to you, Rachel.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here. I use Offering Tree. I love Offering Tree. So that just to get to the end of the story, but there's lots of stuff that I use it for. And two of the things that we're going to specifically talk about today is the difference between pre-recorded and live stream classes, because there's difference and there's a ton of content that I want to cover. So I'm going to kind of go quickly. We'll have questions at the end. And if you have questions as we go that's really relevant to what we're talking about, feel free to put it in the chat. That would be awesome. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Hold on, share sound, share. And can you guys see everything good? And my hope for today is really that you'll leave this webinar with a really clear understanding of how to maximize your online presence through doing really high quality live stream or pre-recorded classes. And that includes like tech, and it also includes platforms. Offering Tree is one great platform, but there are others out there that, of course, if you haven't committed to one yet, you should check out and do your due diligence. So we're going to cover all that stuff. All right. So first, though, I have a handout for you because I love handouts. So I'm going to throw that in the chat, you guys, and you can grab that. Feel free to follow along with it now. And obviously, if you'd rather just listen and then grab it later and use it, it's got some resources and things like that that hopefully you will find helpful in it as well. All right, so let's jump in. So I know we're going to kind of get into the nitty gritty of online stuff here, but before we dive in, I feel like I've heard this before, but there is something I think it's really important to step back and take a look at the big picture of our lives and our business, and ask ourselves, well, what does it mean for me to be thriving as a yoga teacher, as a yoga professional? Oftentimes, because we're so passionate about what we're doing, we can sometimes lose sight of, hey, how does this serve my life? So I just want to throw out there that your yoga practice and your yoga teaching should serve your life, not be your life. So when we're thinking about how we want to put ourselves out there in terms of our online content, it's also useful for us to think about, okay, so how does this match with how I want to bring myself into the world? How does this match my greater mission and what brings me a sense of value and connection to my community? And then when we align our values to what we're doing in our profession, we stay more committed and passionate. It fuels us rather than depletes us. So just to put that out there as a little contemplation point, and something I think is useful to consider is this Japanese concept of ikigai, which is that what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at all kind of form this little sweet spot here in the middle. So that's just something to contemplate as you continue, because sometimes I think also we get on the bandwagon a little bit, right? We kind of think, well, everyone's doing it, so I should do it. And in fact, we can be discerning. Maybe you only want to teach in-person classes, or maybe you're fully into the online commitment. But to really step back and first assess, how does this serve my mission as a teacher and what I want to bring to the world? And how does this support that? How does this enhance that? So teaching virtually, yay. So from my perspective, I mean, COVID, as we all know, has been really rough on all of us, but one thing it did open the door with for yoga teachers particularly is teaching online and bringing more of our work online, which I really love, because when we teach online, usually yoga teachers, we teach per hour, right? I'm in a class, I get paid. I teach a private, I get paid. I do a workshop, I get paid. Well, the online ability to live stream, one, opens up our doorway globally to lots more people, but it also allows us to create these libraries of content that can provide value when we're not there in person. And for resilience, financial resilience, for sustainability in our practice, all of this is really, really good. So it can help you. Teaching online can increase your community reach. It can make things that you want to offer to your students, like, oh my gosh, I have this great little sequence on supporting your lower back. Go check it out on my site. It allows you to give value when you're not there. And you have the potential to crystallize your own teaching voice a little bit more authentically. You can really find your niche and focus on that. And because we can offer ourselves more than locally, we get to reach more people and maybe find our tribe. The more we widen our net, the more we can find those specific people who will really benefit from what we're offering. So the challenges are often tech, right? And the challenges are often video, sound, things like this. And that's what we're going to kind of get into today to hopefully give you some maybe additional tips or just refresh your current knowledge on that. So we're going to look at live stream versus pre-recorded classes. So you guys, well, I want you to interact here and let me know what you think, because these are different formats and they have really different potentials to them. So if I'm doing a live stream on Zoom or Blue Jeans or Google Hangouts or whatever it is that I'm using for my live stream tech, what are the pros of teaching a live stream class? I'm there, I'm the teacher, I'm in the moment with the students. Throw it in the chat. I want to see what you guys think. Oh, accountability. Yeah, Katie, that's great. Like for the student, right? Because the students are like visible and it's like, I got to be there. I can't just tune out and like check my phone. Yeah, interaction in real time, being with the students in the moment. Yeah, totally. Connection, community. Lisa, yeah, there's more opportunity when we're in real time to, create those little personal connections. Immediate answers to questions. Great, Allie, right. So if, I know if I have a question for my teacher and I can be like, oh gosh, that makes my knee hurt, and she'll give me an answer. She'll be like, okay, try this. Yeah, that's true. Students can also turn off the camera. So there's, you can have the camera on, which I think increases that accountability. But I think we've all had those days where we're like, I just want to be here, but I want to turn the camera off. I want to be in the moment. Don't want to be seen today. So it allows people to show up. Yeah, you can adapt the class. That's right. If you can't see the students, you can't do those modifications and change the sequence, right? Yeah, you can't, on the fly or see that someone's struggling with something. Yep, one of the benefits, reaching students who aren't in town. That's right. So looking at what it can do for us, versus teaching an in-person class versus teaching on Zoom. And you guys, maybe you found this, but I was pleasantly surprised as a teacher by how much I could actually see of my students online. I was like, remember when we all had to transition to Zoom and we were like, oh no, this is going to be a disaster. How am I going to give verbal assist? How am I going to talk to them? And we can actually, it's not the same as being in person when you can walk around, but you can see a lot and connect a lot, far more than I expected. So it exceeded my hopes and expectations there. Yeah, this is a great list. Honestly, it's easier too, if I'm comparing it to, we can compare it to being in person with someone at a studio, but also comparing this live stream format to pre-recorded. Live stream's a little easier on your tech, right? You don't have to have the fancy camera, you don't have to have the crazy setup, you don't have to have all the crazy lights. We understand that live stream, if someone's teaching in the moment, it's going to be, the bar is lower for the pristine of the technology. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to quite be so perfect. In fact, the imperfection of the live stream is actually what makes it human and kind of fun. The vibe is more similar to a real class, and you can do it at home. Yay! Great. So what are the challenges if we're thinking about live streams, and particularly contrasting it to something that's pre-recorded? What are some of the downsides, or what are some of the challenges, like me doing live stream versus recording it on my own? What do you guys think? Yeah, Katie, I agree with that. I think it feels a little bit more natural too. Internet issue. Oh, Christina, totally. I didn't even think of that. That's so true. Oh, we've all had that, right? Your internet goes out. Timing, scheduling. Yep. Yeah. Yes. The internet, I guess, would be a number one. Time zones. That's right. Like, if your community is like, far away, the people can't watch at any time, like getting them to show up on time. It's harder. Sometimes students will think a pre-recorded class is easier. Absolutely. Yeah, these are all great things. Also, usually if we're doing a live stream, and this is something to think about because we'll, talk about offering training, your ability to create a library. If you're recording a live stream, Zoom does not record in great quality. You probably noticed that, right? The quality of the video recording, even if you have a nice webcam, isn't great. Zoom said they could record in HD and they do not. So, there might be some other, you basically have to get like a broadband wired in to get really high quality on your live streams. It's easier to get really pristine picture quality if you're recording it on your iPhone, right? So that's just one of the compromises that we make when we teach live. Let's see. Oh, one thing to keep in mind too is if we are doing a live stream, and again, I'm thinking of if you're creating a library of content, that you might not have the right to display your students. So if I do a gallery view, all of a sudden I have a bunch of students. I may not use that as a library class that I'm going to sell because I have all these other people in there who haven't given me permission to use the rights to their likeness, right? So that's, of course, you can just record you, but that's something we want to keep in mind. Also, technology glitches. Yep, bad Wi-Fi, like you've mentioned. Also, as a teacher, demoing can sometimes become a tricky trade-off. One of the benefits of having a live stream recording, as opposed to doing it from your mat entirely, right, is that you get to give students feedback, but then they might be confused about a demo. So when we're teaching a live stream, oftentimes we'll ping pong from the mat, witness my studio, we'll ping pong from the mat to giving feedback, which is the benefits of it, right? We want to take advantage of the fact that we can see our students and talk to them in the class in some way and be attentive to them. But if we're doing that, we might have abandoned our demonstration on the mat. So that's just, just things to keep in mind. So now talking about pre-recorded classes. So if I'm going to do my own thing, pre-record it, what are the pros of doing that? Like, what are some of the benefits of having, so these are not live stream classes that you've recorded. This is you creating a class that you record specifically that students will do on their own time. What are some of the benefits of that particular format? Cheaper for students. Yeah. So when I'm there as a teacher, generally speaking, and you guys, pricing is something we could chat about. But if I'm there physically as a teacher, you know, that might be a higher price point for students. And Katie, I'm not sure if you were talking about this particular format, but I think that's definitely true. Whereas a pre-recorded class, because you're going for quantity, not your time, you can make it a lower price point because the students aren't getting your feedback, right? Which is something that would make the price higher. Yeah, you can return to a favorite class and do it over and over again. Absolutely. Something really nice for that. Any other thoughts on the benefits of pre-recorded versus live stream? You don't have to worry about internet. You can add that in there. And some of the things y'all have mentioned before, like time zones and scheduling, aren't an issue. So a benefit is that students can do it anytime, I guess. Also, I want to throw out here a tech thing. Yes, you can streamline. Great, Allie. That's such a good point. You can streamline the content with editing. So you have more control over the product, right? You can make it like, mwah. You can take out that weird thing you said about your foot, like edit it out, make it beautiful, right? For posterity. Yeah, you got more control over your setting lights and your pets. Although I have to say, I love it when a pet runs through the shot or just hangs out. That's like the best. And yeah, you can perfect your sequence. Yep, absolutely. Christina, that is such a good point. If you have unpredictable health issues, you can create that content when you're feeling good, right? So you can manage it, or you can manage your time. Like you can create a whole batch of these classes and release them slowly over time. So there's a little bit more control. You don't have to show up to be at a certain place at a certain time for the schedule. You can do this when it works for you. Higher quality video, Lisa, absolutely. So I'd say that's like a big point, is that the video, just like we talked about like sound and stuff, the video can be really nice. In a live stream, you're not gonna get that high quality. But if you just record it on your phone, you're gonna get some really nice, it's like phones these days, right, are amazing. And you can get really awesome quality video. It's made available for a month, a year. Oh, is that kind of like to keep interest going in it, or to kind of make it available for a certain amount of time as like sort of a pricing strategy, Wendy? Ah, yes, we'll talk about music. Yeah, you can build a series around a theme. Jeannie, it's nice to see you. Hello. So recording with music. So that's an interesting issue. So I tend to avoid the music issue entirely because there's a whole licensing thing to that you're going to have to go down a rabbit hole and make sure you have the rights to the music. There are certain pieces of music online, but I'm not sure you'd want to use them in your class. Like, honestly, the best music is probably music you'd have to pay for. So what I do as a workaround for my classes, whether they're pre-recorded or live stream, is instead of providing the music myself, I just offer a link. I'm sure you guys have done some of this, right? I offer a link to Spotify or to a different playlist. And the thing is, Wendy, is that you're not going to want to record it with music because you're probably not going to do your class in one take. And if you record it with music, one, there's a licensing issue. And two, if you edit it, the music's going to be all screwy unless you add the music on afterwards. But again, licensing in music is a big thing. You can't just use music willy-nilly, although we would love to. But you can provide a link to your Spotify playlist that goes specifically with that song, or your iTunes playlist, your Apple Music, I guess now, playlist, right? Or your SoundCloud playlist. So there are ways around that. They can support the artist while also letting you provide an option, right? And then I also like the idea of not putting the music on the track anyway, sort of outside of licensing, just because I think some students like to practice in silence, and then some people like to use their own music. And then, so we give them options. They could practice in silence, use their own music, or use your playlist. And I think that's just, that's kind of a nice way to do it, especially if someone's gonna go back to that class again and again. What is the angle to set the camera at if you only have one? That is a great question, and we will get there. Hold that thought. Okay, awesome. All right, so what are the cons of pre-recorded classes? You know, so what makes them harder? We'll be quick with this one, but throw it in the chat, like what makes pre-recorded classes harder to manifest and create? Yeah, that's true. No personal contact. Like, it's kind of a bummer, right? It's nice to have your teacher there. That would be a downside. So Jane, that means we got to be super good with all of our modifications and leveling of those poses when we're teaching when we're teaching pre-recorded classes, because we can't see the students or offer them modifications on the fly. Take 52. Do you mean it takes a lot of takes sometimes? Yeah, Bridget, yes, a lot of time up front. It's more time up front. Totally, right? Okay, I'm gonna just throw out a little pro tip here for you guys. Done is better than perfect, okay? So with your pre-recorded classes, we can get like to be editing like crazy people, like super perfectionist about it. I'm gonna say shoot for a solid 80%. One, because otherwise you'll never finish it unless you hire a crew. And even then you'll be dissatisfied. Two, the imperfect moments, as long as they don't carry on too long, because you do want people to be able to watch these again and again, so you don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But the imperfect moments or the moments on the fly where you're a human are actually sometimes students' favorite moments, even on pre-recorded stuff. So I know totally, Katie, right? We become so perfect. So I'm going to say 80%. And all my perfectionist A+ students out there, C+, go for a C+, maybe a B-. Trust me, it's good enough. I promise you. But there are a couple things that you are going to want to make sure are really good, and we'll talk about that. All right. So here's the thing. We could try to do it all and have both. So I talked about how, we could record those live stream classes and put them into a library. But I just want to say, I really view these as two different products for your students. Yeah, analysis paralysis. So the live streams really are one kind of product where you're in the moment. We're not so worried about tech. We don't need it to be perfect. You want to have the freedom to maybe highlight students or move the camera or change your angles. And you don't want to get hung up on it being perfect. The pre-recorded classes, we're going to take a little bit more care with. Those are ones that you want people to watch over and over and over again. So the tech is going to have a little bit more of a higher priority. Your language and your cueing is going to have the clarity of it. I won't say the perfection of it, but the clarity of your cueing is we're gonna, focus on that a little bit more. But I see these as two different things, because though you can record the live streams, and I do, and put them on your store to sell, I don't think it's quite the same product as having a really nicely done, edited, pre-recorded class. Like when you do a pre-recorded class, you can do things like, even if you have only one camera, you can do things like do close-ups of your hands or do close-ups of things you want to show people. Take advantage of the format, right? So if you only have one camera, that's okay. You can do an insert because you're going to have to edit these. That's another thing that makes the pre-recorded classes is more challenging. Like with Zoom, you just go like, oh, everyone, maybe I edit the tail in the end to take off all the chatter. And I basically, just give them that. But it doesn't really take a lot of editing. Your pre-recorded classes, and you could get super fancy on it. But you can edit, and one camera is fine, because you can do things in editing where you do things in a wide shot. And then if you need to edit something, just push in. Okay, so that's a trick that you can do. If you've got one camera, you're probably going to want to be pretty straight on, or maybe at a 45-degree angle so they can see you, to answer that angle question, right? But you can do something like, I'm shoot in high quality, shoot in HD if you can, if you've got the space on your phone, because that'll give you the ability to, when I make a mistake, like I'm like, oh, I'm doing a sun salutation. Everybody reach your hands up, exhale, bring your hands to your hips. I'm like, oh, didn't mean to do that. That's okay. I could just pause. Here's another tip: clap, give a clap, leave a pause, so that when you're editing, you can see the audio bar and oh, that's where something happened. I can see that when I look at it. And then I say, oh, and bring your hands all the way down to your side. And in that moment in the filming, without making too much of a fuss about it, I can just edit and push in and then come back to my wide. So even if you've got one camera, it doesn't mean you have to do a trillion takes and turn your camera on and off a million times. When I shoot, and again, I'm sort of skipping ahead to pro tips here, but when I shoot, I try to do it in one take, unless your phone gets cranky on you and doesn't like to do that, because I just like to have it. It's like it's all one piece. And I know it's like, that's the thing. When you start making a million takes, it gets a little, then you start to get into media management, which is a thing that they have a whole department in the film industry for, right? It's like, shot one, take two, it gets intense. So for me, I try to shoot it, if my phone can handle it, maybe I'll divide the class into two, just so I don't have an hour of footage on my phone. or maybe thirds. So I got like, if it's a long class, I got like 20, 20, 20, just to make it a little bit more manageable for my phone. But I'll try to do everything in one so that I'm not trying to edit in and import a bunch of different things and then figure out, oh my gosh, what's this? Or have to deal with a slate where you know, guys, we want to keep it as simple as possible as we can. And for me, shooting as much in one take, even if there's errors, again, I do that pause and that clap, and that shows me on the bar where I've got something to figure out. Makes it a little bit easier, right? It's less time consuming. All right. Okay, let's carry on. So, whoops, here's a lovely chart, right? Just kind of highlighting the things, some of the stuff we've talked about. Now, for both of these formats, we're going to want to have there's a couple things that are common to both the live stream classes and your pre-recorded classes. And one of those first things, we're going to cover this in the next little section, the basics, right? Of how to make these look good. Okay, I'm just going to carry on forward here. Okay, so let's jump into the basics of filming. Your space, you want a nice space. This is my space. So I'm a little far away, to be honest, but this is where my computer is. But when I record, I'll probably put my tripod like here, or, you know, yeah, kind of probably here to look back at my space, right? I do recommend a tripod. You guys, I used to record classes like, anyone been with me on this? Where you're like balancing your phone against a stack of blocks and you're like, this will work. Forget it. Just get a tripod, get an adapter to stick your iPhone into. It's going to make your life so much easier. Yeah, it's hard. Tripod, it can be a cheap tripod. I think I've got some references in the handout, I think, for some different stuff. But yeah, my handy tripod is like right here, right? And it's got a little adapter so I can stick my iPhone in there and I can turn my iPhone so I can do those vertical shoots if you're doing an Instagram story or something like that. So it's a piece of equipment that just makes your life a lot easier. And in general, here's also a tip for you guys, is that I feel like we really want to reduce the pain of creating your setup space. In other words, sometimes it's really hard to get to, just a note, I might have to fix that link to the handout. If you go to the link I originally shared with you guys, it'll be on the last page in there. But you want to reduce the barriers to getting on the mat and filming. Is anyone shy about filming? Like kind of feel self-conscious about like making it happen? You know, like, oh God, I got to put on, for me, I'm always like, I should put on mascara. Oh, it's like the worst barrier in the world. Doing it. Yes, exactly, Fairy. Yes, but do it. But to my mind, if we can create a space that just lives as our recording studio, we're more likely to get to the mat and make those classes. Lower the barrier, right? In other words, rather than having to move if you can, right? It depends where you live and how much space y'all have. But if it's possible, finding a space that can just be your recording space that you don't have to set up and take down, that's going to just help you get there more often. Get your lights set up and you just turn them on and that's it. You don't have to think about it. As much as we can do that, you know, sometimes we live with people and we're using our living room and that's just the way it is. But lower the barrier to making it happen. So your teaching space, really, it can be super simple. It can be a blank wall, right? We've seen it. It just needs to be like a clean, nice space. Now, offline, after this, I want you guys to do a fun, deep dive into what your particular vibe is. So you'll see in the handout that there's like a little kind of worksheet for like, what are your words? Like if you were going to make adjectives for your space, what would they be, right? In this particular one, we want this space on the right rather than the space on the left. Generally, clean, neat, tidy. It just reduces distractions for people watching you. Here's some examples of recording spaces that I've shot in. You can just see they're super simple. Outside is also really nice. But have some fun, be creative with it, and think about like, what's my vibe? Like the vibe on the left is different than the vibe on the right in this particular picture. You guys can come up with it and let that be a reflection again of your mission and your teaching styles and your values. Like, do you like cozy, colorful feelings? Do you like clean, you know, stark, very like open feeling? So you guys can play with that. It's super fun. All right. So space, you know, clean, well-lit space. Well, here comes the well-lit part. Lighting is, you just want to make sure that there's no major shadows. Now, here's also kind of a pro tip. Your phones these days are super good at kind of managing your light. So if I have my phone in a dim room, it makes it look pretty darn good. So we don't have to freak out about lighting as much as we might used to have. But you do want to have really nice lighting in the sense that you want your face lit, you want your body lit. You want to make sure that you are lit and that people can see you well. So, and you guys, I'm going to state the obvious, don't be backlit, don't have a light behind you. If you have a window behind you, make sure it's not showing so much light so that the camera, right, makes you dark. Usually you want to set up your lights just above eye level or higher. Mine are kind of like, I'd say, not right now, I don't have them on, but they're about this angle when I turn them on. And I just use my regular room lights, but I turn on a couple of lights just to make sure my face isn't dark. And you don't have to use much. I think in the handout, I include some information on how they light in film, just as an FYI, but basically they'll light one side this way and that'll create shadows, makes it look all moody and stuff. For us, we don't necessarily need that. Face on is good. You actually just want to be more lit. But if you do have two, you'd probably offset them like at about 45 degrees and then maybe have a light from above. Here's a little trick. Did I put this in here? Oh, no, it's the next one. Let me just talk about outside is great. Daylight is great. It's like this beautiful blanket, thing. Sorry, Donna, how to set if windows behind and it's so bright. You're going to need a curtain, or you have to use the light from the window and turn it around if you can. So you're either going to have to make that dimmer or shoot at night, which would probably be weird because you'll have reflections from inside the room. But if I had a beautiful window, I would probably see, can I turn it around and have the window be my natural light? Because that's going to give you such good lighting. Daylight is amazing. So if you have the ability to do that, I would. Otherwise, you're just going to have to curtain that window in some way or get some blinds because you can't be backlit. Just the way it is. The other option would be to light yourself so hot forward that it balances that, but that would take a lot of lights. So that might not be the best solution. Okay, this is something that is a really good thing to know. Lights have different colors. Okay, you can see the light on the left is like warm. The light on the right is cool. So when you're using lights, try to make them the same color. Because I've done this before. I'm like, why do I look so weird? It's because one was warm and one was cool. And I look crazy. So you want the lights to be in the same tone. What does that mean for you? That just means put your light bulbs at the same soft white or daylight. Daylight's going to give you that bright sunlight feel. It's kind of blue. And soft white is going to give you kind of like that nice, warm, cozy feeling. So again, think about your brand, your mission, the vibe you're trying to create. That might tell you what kind of lights you want, what color you want your lights. Now, up above me, I have little pot lamps in my studio that I got put in, and I can change the temperature of them. I don't often, but I could go up there and change the little button and set them more to warm or set them more to cool. Right now, my lights in here are like at a medium warm. I like a little warmth to my lighting. My boyfriend who does anatomy videos, he likes daylight. He likes it cold and like super crisp and clear. I'm a yogi. I want a little, cozy in it. So LED lights are great to use. And again, you'll see some references for this in your handout. I'm using LEDs in here and actually above too. They don't get hot, so yay. And oftentimes, like the light that I have, I wonder if I can drag it over here. I got this little light. I think this cost me $100, a little light. And when I turn it on too, I can control the temperature of it. So I can control whether or not it's warm or it's cool. And I can match that to the general vibe of my space. So if you're looking into investing lights, they're pretty inexpensive these days. B&H Photo in New York will ship to you anywhere, and they are like they have huge stock of lots of lights, and that could be one place to check out if you feel like you need more lights. Or just go around your house, grab some lamps, put some lamps in there if you need more light. You do not have to be fancy or spend a lot of money to do this. You can use what you've got. Just make sure all of your light bulbs are the same kind of light bulb. Otherwise, you will look funny. Okay. All right, sound. Okay, I want you guys to listen to this, what this sound is like. Let's see. If it plays. What were we saying about internet? I think my internet's fine. I'm not sure why this is taking so long. Let's see if I can find it over here. Oh,
The thing
sorry.
that's different about a
We're gonna have to
Verbo
listen
vacation
to
home,
Verbo.
you always have the whole place to
Okay. All right.
Here is self-connect. We can help our students move inwards and feel more.
All right, blah, blah, blah. So that's sound example 1. Sound example 2. Let's see if I can get this one to play.
New yoga teachers out there, or maybe my senior yoga teachers who are just interested in my thoughts on this, I wanted to give you some quick and dirty tips.
Okay, so those, could you guys hear that? Was that Sarah Finger? It might have been. I know Sarah. Anyway, so the sound difference, right? So in the first one, there's a lot of echo. I'm in a huge space with a lot of blank walls. And so the sound bounces. I did have a mic, but I had a room mic. In the second one, this example, I have a lavalier on. Right now I'm wearing AirPods, but I had a wireless mic. Sound is huge. Whether you are doing live stream or whether you're doing pre-recorded, that is gonna be like a major, sorry about that. That is gonna be a major piece of the puzzle for you. So this is something that you really wanna, this is something where I would say, like, if you're gonna put any money into your stuff, sound is the first place I would go, because this is where people teaching live or teaching in a pre-recorded class is more like a podcast than a video. Even though we're putting efforts into our video, actually, it's people are really listening to you. They're not looking at the screen unless something you say doesn't make sense, right? So 1, as teachers, we gotta like make our cueing super awesome. But 2, we also need to make sure that our sound is like, mwah, right? So that means right here in this picture, you can see I'm wearing a lavalier, which is a wireless mic. But AirPods, these little Apple AirPods are often work great. There's other vendors as well. I just happen to be a Mac person. The Rode RODE mics have been really popular and people are using those. But if you're gonna be teaching yoga, especially in a live stream, if you're gonna be up here at the camera and then back on your mat and then up at the camera, you need a sound that is attached to you. Same thing with your pre-recorded stuff. The sound needs to be awesome. So this is one place I'd say, well, you wanna think about making an investment if you're gonna do this long-term. Music, I'm just gonna tootle through the tulips here. We kind of already talked about music. Again, this is my preference, is to provide links. So let's talk about some tools and best practices specifically for live stream. All right, I'm a Mac girl, but the internal cameras on Apple's suck. They are not good. So I have that camera right there that you see. I'm using it right now. It has a really nice sharp picture. To the best of your ability, you want to record the highest quality you can when you're recording, but generally you can't get great recording quality, as we've discussed. For a camera setup, we sort of chatted about this. You generally want to be straight on. It depends how you set it up. If you're teaching a live stream, you might, as the presenter, have 2 different sign-ins. So sometimes if I'm going to be demonstrating at a different angle, say I'm doing inversions and I want people to see me from the side, I might have my camera on my computer here and my phone at an angle at the wall so that students can see me in a way that makes sense when I do a demonstration. So I might do that, or I might also have, I have a friend who uses her iPad and she keeps her iPad with her on the mat so she can look at the students from there while her camera that's filming her is far away. So for live stream, you're going to be kind of figuring that out, but usually we have the option to have more than one sign in to the Zoom, at least we sure do. So you might take advantage of that. You mean, Amanda, do you mean for your pre-recorded classes? Yes? Yeah, okay. I think it's fine. Absolutely. So if you don't want to invest in a sound thing, or it's like, or you don't necessarily have that at your disposal right now, and you want to do a voiceover, you could do the physical stuff for your class and then you could voice over it. Why not? Like, because, you know, usually we can be right close to our phone or right close to what we're recording. I think that's totally fine. Yeah. Okay. So when you're doing Zoom, you guys, we've all been through the gauntlet of this. Just make sure to check your settings, make sure that your mic is up, you know, all the usual. So when we're doing a live stream kind of thing, there's, you know, we could use Zoom. I think Vimeo will let you do live stream now, Uscreen, Blue Jeans, which is from Verizon, Google Hangouts, YouTube Live. So even if you guys are using your offering tree or a different platform to host your videos, you're still going to need someone to run your live streams for you. Could be Google Hangouts, YouTube Live, I think might be another one. So there's lots of options, investigate them. We've sort of all defaulted, not all of us, many of us have defaulted to Zoom. But there are other options in case you want to find a different vendor. The benefit of Zoom is that it integrates a lot of, you know, platforms like Offering Tree or your other places that are going to host your videos with a library or schedule your Zoom classes for you, which is huge. No interface with Zoom because they're kind of the biggest player. So that's a benefit of using Zoom, and they're pretty cheap, right? So that's nice. For teaching best practices, let's take advantage of the fact that we can give our students feedback. You know, we don't want the live stream experience to be a pre-recorded experience. You know what I mean? Where we just teach from the mat. We want the live stream experience to be one where the teacher is with you in the room, and that means they need to be off camera. So something you could do as a teacher is you could have one of your students be the demo for you, right? You could say, you could be like, Marjorie, you know, talk to Marjorie before class, but Marjorie is going to be, you're going to spotlight her for the class because she knows your teaching and she knows your style and she has a mindful practice. And so she could do the demonstration of the practice and you could teach live. That's one way to kind of get the best of both worlds, give your students a visual, but also you are able to pay attention to them. Or you can run back and forth as most of us do. All right, so let's see. I'm just kind of going through the different options. So if you're teaching a live stream, you have the option to teach fully from the camera. Students might miss the visual demo. You have the option to run back and forth, or you have the option to completely demo, which I think is not so great. So, but you guys will kind of find your way. When we're watching the students, then we can see everything that's going on. We can give personalized feedback, which is really, really nice. But this requires us to be super clear when we're teaching, right? All right. I'm skipping through this because we've kind of already chatted about that. All right, so what do you think? Say we are going to be teaching live stream classes. This is the modality that we are committing to. What are some best practices in your own experience that you've encountered or things that you've been thinking about that could go to creating community in an online space? What are some tips you would share with someone who's like, wow, how do I create community even if it's on a live stream? What do you think? Have a Facebook group, right? A place where people, it's like the tea area. It's like the yoga lounge, right? Amen, Idana. Show up if no one comes. Yeah, Jeannie, that's great. Greet everyone individually. I do want to talk about what Idana said, which is to show up. You guys, building an online class can be tricky. Building a regular studio class that has a previous membership can take 6 months to build a new class. So when you're teaching online and you don't necessarily have a massive amount of studio memberships, you might be teaching, no one might come. You might teach to one person, you might teach to two. It's going to take a while to build that. And the only way to build it is for you to show up with consistency every week. And it's not that I want to just remind you guys, if you're starting to build a class, it's not that people don't love you or want to be there, but you know how it is when life is busy and there's a million things clamoring for you. And again, we talked about scheduling being challenging sometimes. It can be hard for people to prioritize self-time. So even if they really want to be there, they might be putting their kids in front that day. You know what I mean? So I just want to encourage you. It's going to take time. It's going to take like 6 months if you really want to build a class. Give people time to chat before class. Awesome. You know, and one thing you might invite is I always invite people to put their cameras on. Like, and even if they want to keep them off for the practice, I might say, you know, if you feel comfortable, put your cameras on, even if you want to turn it off for the practice, just to say hi. And again, if you don't, like, I never pressure people to put their cameras on, but I do want to create a nice invitation for that, or create a habit around that as much as possible, because that gives us more of that in-person feel, right? Yeah. Ask your students questions, check in with them, use their names, remember who they are. Zoom is great for that, right? Because everyone puts their names on their profile, unless they're Galaxy 6, you know, which sometimes happens. Be kind. Students sometimes have their videos off. So I'd say create a welcoming environment to turn the video on. When you're giving feedback to students in class, give positive feedback as well as constructive feedback, so they don't feel like they feel seen without necessarily feeling like they have to improve. That can be a nice tactic to do. Check in after the class. Great, Wendy, for comments, observations, and questions. Here's a trick that I started doing. If students don't want assists, like if they don't want verbal feedback, then you could say, hey, just put NA, no assists, in your name, right? So that way you can be in the group and feel present, but just know that I won't, quote unquote, pick on you, right? Or that you'll be out of the observational eye. That can be one way to kind of navigate some of those questions. Like we would do, you know, like ask people for hands-on assists. We can ask people if they want verbal assists when we're on Zoom. Let's see. You might want to help people set up at the beginning. Newbies who come to your class, they might not know how to put their camera so that you can support them. So you might have to be like, Andrew, I can only see your feet. Is it possible to lift your camera up slightly? Right? All right. Now we'll take a quick foray into best practices for pre-recorded stuff. So you can use your camera, right? Your beautiful phone camera, which can shoot HD these days. You could use another kind of camera. You can do, like we just talked about, you could do the one camera setup. You could do a 2-camera setup. I will say that as soon as you add another camera, editing gets more complicated because you start having to sync things. You have to knock the sound out of one of them. You have to make sure that they're synced up. That is a level of complexity you may or may not want, right? But it's possible to do that. Or you can get a friend who's a videographer who wants to help you for free yoga. Generally speaking, this may go without saying, but you're generally going to want to shoot horizontally rather than vertically. Vertical is for stories and Instagram and stuff like that. Horizontal is the conventional for, you know, yoga practices, YouTube, Vimeo, all the rest of it. So I'm just talking about the pros and cons of multiple cameras. You can see in this shot, we're using 3 cameras. But if you were just using one, I would just do one that was straight on or at a 45-degree angle, and that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. If you are using multiple cameras, you might do, the clap is the slate, right? That allows you to sync sound. You will probably only be recording your sound to one of the cameras, so you'll just delete the sound off the second camera so you don't get any weird interference, kind of how that goes. But if you are using, like, I don't know that you would actually ever use two sounds with one person, probably not. But the other thing the slate gives you is an easy way, if you can see that, again, a clap just makes that real sharp bar in the audio. So that's an easy way for you to, if you're using more than one clip, to sync them together. That's why they do it. That's why it makes it easier. Let's talk a little bit about editing. Editing, if you're doing pre-recorded, we talked about, you know, my perfectionist family, I feel you. It can be challenging. I recommend trying to keep it super simple. You can use iMovie. I use something called Camtasia, which is an educational software. I just like it because it has some little, it can make little like titles. It makes titles and things like that pretty easily. But you're not going to need anything too sophisticated. You basically need the ability to cut, pull things out, put things together, maybe add some fades, maybe add a title at the beginning and the end. Most editing softwares are going to be able to do this pretty easily. I have a list of them in the handout that you can take a look at. But again, keep it simple. I suggest if you want to have for your videos, I think it's really good to have an intro, which kind of gives the disclaimer. If you're doing pre-recorded, you know, hey, it's like your waiver, right? You know, you want them to sign a waiver. And one of the great things about Offering Tree is that you can require students to sign a waiver, to check a waiver before they take your class. Yay. But you can also put a little disclaimer at the beginning of your video that's just there for everyone, which says yoga is a physical practice. You know, we recommend that you, whatever, you know, really check in with yourself. Don't do anything that feels bad, blah, blah, blah. You're responsible. You know, you can put that at the beginning. in the end. And that way, if you have a template in your editing software where you have that at the beginning, and maybe you have a little thing at the end which says, thank you, stay in touch, here's my Instagram handle, or however you want to do it. And then every time you do a new class, you can just use that same kind of template and reduce the time. You will probably want to watermark your videos, which means adding a little transparent graphic, right? Which is kind of like your brand into it. Again, you can add that watermark into your template. We're just trying to do things that keep the process easier for you. This is kind of like a whole massive hole we could get into. So if you're interested in how I manage that, contact me outside. Or you might, if you have a friend who does videos and loves to do that stuff, have them give you a tutorial or create your templates for you. Keep it nice and easy. And then finally, video hosting sites. Yay! So you're going to need a place to put your videos, your pre-recorded videos, once you've created them. Offering Tree has a library, which I love. There's some other ones that you could check on. You should do your due diligence and check in with all of these vendors, you know. But one thing I will say is that you probably want to, when you're starting to look at vendors, if you haven't started to look at vendors yet, there's a couple things that you're going to want to keep in mind. So for me, I want the option to do both live stream classes and pre-recorded classes. So I'll show you actually on my site. Rachel, okay. This is my Offering Tree site. I'm not currently teaching live classes. I'm on hiatus, so I don't have them here, but what's nice is that they show up. So if you have a class that's coming up, it'll show up right on your front page, which I love. The live class schedule, same thing. Again, I don't have any live classes on the go right now, so they're not there. But I also have my video library. Yay. And this video library, I call them live stream recaps because I want people to know this isn't me teaching a pre-recorded class. This is a live stream class that I'm recapping here. And I put them all in here. Aren't they pretty? Right? I can use my branding and my colors, and then people can buy these individually. If I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see my pre-recorded classes, right? These, you can tell these are a little, like this is a little nicer, right? I have a little setup, but I did this really simply. This isn't fancy. These are the pre-recorded ones, and you can see I just shot them in a living room, the house I was in. So it doesn't have to be super fancy in order to be really high value. But I deliberately created these as pre-recorded classes. So things you're going to want to look for in your vendor or in your platform is that they can connect to and schedule your Zoom classes automatically. So for example, if I'm using Zoom as my live stream, I want to be able to schedule a class in my platform and have it automatically create that Zoom link, send out reminders, tell people they're confirmed. I want it to take payments. I want it to manage memberships. Like, I wanted to take that completely off my plate. I want people to be able to buy a monthly unlimited membership and have it give it access to the classes that I have. So you want something that has that capacity and that can also provide you a library where you can also sell recordings. And so that's what I love about Offering Tree is that I can do all of those things for me. And it also can create a pretty little website. Now, I don't use this as my primary website, but I link my website to here. This is like where you can find my classes. All right, so in the interest of time, my friends, woo, we're gonna wrap up here, but hopefully this has given you some good tips or tools or techniques or just a refresher on stuff that you know, but just wanted to kind of be reminded of. But I'd love to hear from you guys if you have questions that I can answer. And this is me, and that's where you can find me as well.
Rachel, this is so much information. I've found like so much inspiration now to get, I'm like, I need to get back to this. I was one of those people who jumped online after Zoom and then just totally couldn't get it all to work together. So this has been really inspirational to get back to it.
I know it's a lot. I know it was kind of dense. I sort of wanted to run through it, but you guys, that's why it's great that there's a recording. and the handout has some listing of the stuff that I think is really great. And also I have a couple of blogs on my site, which specifically speak to pre-recorded classes and a little bit more depth to the tech in case that's interesting to you guys. Yeah, anybody have any thorny widgets? Anything that they're struggling with in their online or pre-recorded classes, or any lingering questions? or advice, anything that I didn't cover that you guys are like, this has really helped me in teaching. Oh yeah, editing. I know, simple program, like get the simplest program you can for your editing software. If you're Apple, I'd say iMovie, and all you need really is like to trim it so that it's one thing. Unfortunately, does anybody out there use PC? Anyone out there a PC user? Because I don't know good editing software for PCs off the top of my head. I know. So Satsanga Yoga, I'm not sure what your name is, but are you a Windows or a PC person? I know. Such a Mac person. Windows, yeah. Yeah. Anybody have any good Windows software? I think in the handout, I think I have a couple free. I think there's a couple free editing software things. If you go free editing software for Windows online, you might find some good resources, or there might even be some stuff you can edit online. Yeah, or, you know, I'm a big fan of finding that friend who needs free yoga, who is just, find a teenager. They're all good at editing, right?
So true.
It's so true. They're all editing their TikToks, you know what I mean?
And Satsanga Yogi says, thank you. Christina says, thank you. And I echo that. This has been amazing, Rachel. It's a huge amount of info. It's so generous of you to share this. I really, really appreciate it. And the team here do too. And also thank you for being an Offering Tree user. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Yeah. Sorry, Gian's just saying that it gives a good insight into how to develop an online teaching presence. I think it really does. You've got so much intel to share, Rachel. It's amazing. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone for being here. So we will send the replay out. You might need to watch it again, have your notepads handy. And so if you're here live, we'll be sending the replay out an email. And if you've got any questions, you can always message us at Offering Tree. The support team is support@offeringtree.com. If you've got any tech needs. And yeah, thank you all for being here, and especially you. Thank you, Rachel, for sharing all this. Really, really grateful.
My pleasure. Nice to have you all here. And if I can be of any help, also, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to hear from teachers.
Yeah. I'll send all of Rachel's links in our follow-up email as well, so you can keep in touch and sign up for Rachel's stuff. Okay, everyone, thank you and goodbye.
Bye.